Oh, welcome to the Q Code podcast. With Danny, Trav, and Alan.
What?
That sounds just
Oh,
like
no.
the song.
No.
I just liked at the very beginning of it, you just hear his giant inhale. He's like,
I just don't think anyone's gonna get what it is for the first couple of seconds. It just sounds like him being like.
I don't know why none of my intros works very well, but we'll keep trying. That's the goal. You just got to practice until you make perfect. But speaking of, welcome everybody into the QCO podcast, where we are continuing to do our real versus real, REEL, as Trav spelled last week, versus REAL, where we go through movies and find out what was real or what really happened in history versus what was portrayed or depicted in the movie. Speaking of movies, though, you guys, have you guys been to the theater recently?
Nobody's been to the theater recently, Danny.
Okay.
They've been closed for 4 months.
You guys have answered the question correctly, because there are no theaters open, really. Well, other than a special circumstance. But if I told you that you had a really good shot at being the number one movie in the country right now, would you be excited?
what?
If I said you could be the number one box office grossing movie, if you
Me as a person?
Yeah,
or as
you just
the
put a
movie
little.
that's,
If you just put a little effort into it,
Or like this movie that we're making for the YouTube follower.
possibly. I bring this up because did you guys hear about the two guys who decided to make their own movie,
the guys
knowing
who made
that
South
all
Park?
theaters are closed, and so they literally made a movie over the course of 5 days using nothing but their Zoom, and they just called people up and made a horror film, and then they released it into theaters, and they got the number one grossing film of the day.
How much did it
The
gross?
day or the
Did it
weekend?
gross
Maybe it was the
$5,000?
weekend. $25,000.
Good.
They put it in one theater. They had 5 showings of it, and they bought out every single one themselves. They were the only 2 to go.
They spent
it's like they
$25,000 to go to their own movie.
But I mean, in a
5
sense,
times
they
in a
make
row.
back that minus the, all the taxes and the stuff that has to go to the theaters and stuff. So they
Yeah,
only
it's
probably spent
whatever.
$10,000 to do this stupid idea.
But they said they enjoyed every moment of it. If you want, you guys can go check out that movie. It's called Unsubscribe. The budget for the movie was $0, and it grossed $25,000. But really, like Trav said, it was their own money.
Well,
This was Dan.
How how do they know that it needed to be $25,000 worth to be number one?
They didn't. They just looked at the past few weeks' history, and they just if we can get over 20,000, I'm pretty sure with no theaters being open, we can get the number one grossing movie.
There's drive-in theaters, though. Those have been doing pretty hot. Like Jurassic Park was number one a couple weeks ago because they were playing it in drive-in theaters.
Really?
Yes, it was.
Like the first one?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And Jaws. It was a double feature, Jurassic Park and Jaws.
Oh, wow. Do we still have that drive-in theater in Utah?
We have
Redwood
2
Road?
of them.
Out on Redwood Road?
Redwood Road and one in Riverdale.
They're going to make
Yeah,
Walmarts into drive-in theaters. Did you guys
I
know?
heard that too.
Really?
Is for real?
Like
Mhm.
at night? Because they're still open in the day.
Not
aren't
like
they?
all the time. It's
Not
going to be
like
like special
in,
occasions
just their
and stuff.
parking lots. Yeah.
They put up a big old screen and you can come in and get concessions and such from Walmart. Sounds like the worst way to get concessions.
Why don't you guys all congregate in this
Yeah, because
Walmart?
you have
Can't
to
wait for somebody to
self-check
go
out.
into the Walmart and buy some stuff and then stick it in their pants so they can sneak it into the Walmart Park Theater.
You know what I find funny about all of this? Just so that everybody knows, a few days, or I guess last week, Trav Mydell was here visiting us, and we decided, so I'll go out and grab a bite to eat, and we just congregated in a park because can't really go anywhere. And we got to talking a little bit about the podcast. Trav and I told Danny that we're putting him in timeout because he, in fact, he didn't know anything about this show and what we're going to be talking about until about 30 minutes ago,
which is annoying
when I
Trav.
messaged everybody, because what he likes to do is he has a hard time not researching something. And so we put him in timeout. We also told him that, I'd take care of the question, but Danny obviously read an article and had to talk about these two kids.
Do you have a question, Trav, or did he just like trump it out now? There's no need for a question.
There's really no need for a question now.
Well, what's your question? Let's hear it.
I was just going to ask what your guys' favorite part of the circus was.
Oh! So do we pick like the left ring, the right ring, or the middle ring?
Danny, can tell me one thing that goes in one of those rings.
Animal cruelty. That's what.
That's what. I agree with Alan. Animal cruelty.
No, seriously though, growing up, because I went to the circus. I don't know if you guys remember this. I went to the circus almost every year when I was growing up because it came right like at my birthday. Like oftentimes it was literally on my birthday.
They're like, hey Danny, happy 18th birthday. Let's go to the circus again. Like, I don't want to go to the circus, Dad. He's like, yeah, but I get free tickets from work.
You know how many clowns get out of that car? At least 6. Okay, let's go to the circus.
But because of that, my favorite, I was never overly excited, even though my background is obviously the animals. But this is my way of...
Oh, your background.
I thought you were talking about like your life background.
Obviously,
I've got a background at some point.
Danny, your
background in animals.
So, but like, this is my portrayal of like how we have now gotten rid of this animal cruelty. Standing on their heads.
Did he say that weird?
Yeah, he said cruelty.
Cruelty.
Wait, did I?
The fancy French.
Animals.
There's an E in there, but it's not after the L.
I'm so tired of the animal cruelty.
Anyway, like my favorite part was actually the motorcycles that would drive inside of the
You took mine.
Stage. That was like the coolest because they would turn the lights out and like the motorcycles would have glowy wheels and stuff too, and they'd be like, and they'd be,
I know, those always freak me out because I was like, somebody's gonna crash.
Did it remind
There's
you
got to
of
be
Tron?
a trick to it, right?
Did it remind you of Tron?
Kind of.
No, I didn't know Tron then.
But yeah, that was my favorite.
Cool.
Can I tell you a quick story about the rodeo, not the circus? I once went to the rodeo and a guy got bucked off a bull and it was very serious and they had to like carry him off the stage. And then shortly after that, I saw them put something under the bleachers and under a white blanket, and I thought it was the guy, and it was just underneath me. And for the whole rest of the rodeo, I just kept looking underneath the bleachers, thinking it was the guy dying below me. That's my favorite part of the circus.
What was it?
I don't know.
That's my favorite part of the circus.
I don't know what it was. To this day, I don't know. Maybe it was the guy, but I don't think so. I think they probably took him to the hospital. But I just remember as a kid, I was terrified the entire rodeo because I kept looking down and seeing the body down there. And I was like, that's the guy that got bucked off. They just put him down there under the bleachers. He's probably dead.
So, trivia question 101 for you guys. How many seconds do you need to stay on the bull?
8 seconds.
8 seconds. Everybody
There's a movie.
It's common knowledge?
8 seconds.
No, the movie. It's called 8 Seconds.
I've never seen that movie. I gotta watch it.
Is it different for a Bronco though?
No, it's 8
versus
seconds.
a bull?
I don't know.
Okay,
let's talk about circus.
But anyway, to bring it in, so obviously, if no one
Trav.
else has noticed, we are going to be talking about a circus movie today, and probably the most popular circus movie to come out in the last decade.
Also, the only circus movie to come out in the last decade.
Perhaps the only.
No,
Dumbo came out.
Dumbo doesn't count.
And it happens in a circus, which I don't like Dumbo. But that's a whole nother podcast. So anyway, not the animal stuff. I like the animal. I just don't like the movie. But I just don't want animal rights activists to be like, he hates elephants.
Of the two people that might stumble upon our podcast on YouTube, you think one of them's an animal rights activist?
Probably. There's a high likelihood.
Then the other thing is that they would have to get this far in it.
Because now when I post this to YouTube, I'm gonna hashtag it and then tag it with PETA,
hashtag animal rights.
Animal rights.
But anyway, he's doing his real versus real on what, Trav?
The Greatest Showman.
What?
So
hence my beginning.
Yeah, this was a process for me because I haven't had time to really watch any movies, and I wanted to do one that I either know or have done or have watched recently. And so it was either between this or The Theory of Everything. And I did not want to do that because I know you guys would just go haywire over a biopic about Stephen Hawking.
What?
So
you didn't?
I know very little about The Theory of Everything.
Okay. Like the movie or
thanks Dan. No, don't let him have it. Just roll on past.
I'm actually listening to a book about it right now.
Well,
man,
maybe you can do. Well, you've already done yours, so you can't do one now. You're done.
Actually,
The Theory of Everything.
It's on Superstring Theory, but then like the new Theory of Everything is they call it M Theory, and no one really even knows why they called it the M Theory. It doesn't stand for anything
because it's a moot point to talk about it. So
nicely done.
Yeah. But anyway, so but yeah, holy crap, I totally forgot what The Greatest Showman. And I remember kind of like what you mentioned, Trav, is after I watched this the first time, I was like, I feel like this is inaccurate. So not just the fact that I'm like, I definitely know P.T. Barnum's life was not a musical. But apart from that, with just how they portrayed him and how they portrayed other things and characters, and I was like, is this really how it was? Because everybody seems to have big problems with P.T. Barnum. And in that movie,
in real life?
No, in real life. And in the movie, he seemed like a swell guy.
Except so, very likable. He was very likable in the movie.
Yes.
And he didn't really have an affair. No,
what was that?
He stopped her. He's like, I'm not interested. And she got all butthurt.
Okay, first
well, we'll talk about that as we get into this, Daniel. But so let's start out with a couple of easy ones here, because the other thing before I get going, because I knew there were so many differences in this one, with Alan's, it was kind of interesting to see like that they actually stayed pretty close to historical things, with how it actually happened in Apollo 13. But so I decided to pick something that would have a little bit more.
If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it after or before this one.
Way to plug it.
Don't stop this one right now and then go. But
yeah, finish this one.
Anyway, so one of the first things that I was curious about when I first watched the movie was Zac Efron's character, Philip Carlyle, because I was like, is he supposed to be like the Bailey guy that eventually became, Barnum and Bailey Circus? And but so the answer is no. The other question is, was he actually a real person? The answer is no.
What?
So Philip Carlyle was never a real person.
So there was never a dude that invested in the circus, and so he could have 10%.
Well, no, not like that.
Or 9.
No.
Maybe it was 9%. Is that what they agreed on in the movie?
No, it was 10.
Okay.
Let me ask this though, because sometimes
Danny's now singing the song in his head, but
sometimes for movies,
I swear they're like 9. He's like,
sometimes for movies, they'll like mash up some different characters and create people and create one character, so it's easier to follow. You have like all 10 of these different characters and like kind of combine them into one person.
Yeah. Well, one of the biggest reasons they wanted Zac Efron was because they wanted to have a separate love connection to focus on, other than P.T. Barnum and his wife, because that was all done like at the very beginning. P.T. Barnum was with his wife and they had kids and everything, so there wasn't really like this love interest for people to follow, and so they brought in Zac Efron. But then,
so wait, you're telling me that Zendaya was not an actual character?
So that was my next question: was Zendaya's character and Ann Wheeler, the trapeze artist, was she a real person? No, she wasn't. She was not a real person.
Also made up.
I feel like
is anybody real besides P.T. Barnum?
What was his name in the movie? P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
What does PT stand for? Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
My guess is Peter.
That's just how Danny would pronounce Peter.
Hold on.
I think it's like Philip Tucker.
It doesn't even say.
Philip Tucker. I mean, it's a good guess.
I could find it, but.
Here, Trav, you go ahead and continue. I'll look it up.
Okay.
That's the benefit of having multiple hosts, is you can keep the show going. No pun intended.
Yeah. So the other thing, if you remember early on in the movie, at least those of us that have seen it, Alan, you haven't, but P.T. Barnum is laid off from like this desk job that, at that point, he just kind of is like, you know what, I'm fed up with all this. Trying to, scrape by. I want to do something crazy. He kind of figures out a way to get a loan from a bank so that he can purchase a building. And then, kind of get into the show business that way. So that actually wasn't true.
Shocker.
It's somewhat true. He did go broke a little bit beforehand, but it wasn't because he was laid off from a desk job.
So he never had a desk job?
He actually owned a general store. And at some point in time, there was a law passed that he couldn't do like lottery tickets and stuff like that from his store, and that was the majority of his earnings or of his profits. And so once they took that away, he was just like, you know what, I'm just going to sell my store. So he sold the store, and then he used the profits from that to buy the building.
See, gambling does help lives.
I think that they should make that. I think they should have kept that, and they could have made a musical out of it. Yeah. I can't sell these tickets to old women and get the extra funds for my children.
So what to do with all these extra tickets? I'll make them into tickets for the circus.
Okay, well. I thought you were going to at least rhyme something with tickets. I was about to be impressed. I was like, ticket's a hard word to rhyme off the thing. And then it just said, I'll get these extra tickets for the circus.
But in my circus, I will be presenting liberties snickets. So I have an answer for you guys anyway. His full name is Phineas Taylor Barnum.
Phineas Taylor, that's what it was.
Phineas.
That's my nickname in college.
Phineas.
Yeah.
So Travis Barnum.
So that's how he bought the building that he kind of started his show. was just off of selling his general store. So
could you imagine being his wife though in that situation where he's like got this like fairly steady job with like steady income and they're like, you can't sell lottery tickets. He's like, very well, I'm selling it and opening an animal exhibit. It would just be difficult.
I don't even think then it was really an animal exhibit. The animals didn't come in till later. It was just,
oh my gosh,
it was
There weren't animals at first in the circus.
No, it wasn't a circus.
Wasn't it just like just to see? Like it was supposed to be like a museum.
It was a museum.
That's right. Isn't it a museum too in the show? Is it a museum?
Yeah. It's a museum that he buys. So that's true.
Like a Ripley's Believe It or Not.
It's more like a wax museum.
So I have one question. So, and stick with me through this because it has the point. But you said he owns a general store, and then all of a sudden they passed a law where he can't sell lottery tickets anymore, which was the vast majority of the revenues that his store brought in, right? So how did he sell his store for enough money to buy a museum if someone were to come in and do the future cash flows of his business? They would have paid very, very small amount for his store. It just wouldn't be very worth.
Well, you still got brick and
Danny,
mortar.
would you like me to read exactly what it says? Was P.T. Barnum nearly broke before he opened his museum? This is somewhat true. However, he hadn't been laid off from a desk job. After lotteries were banned in Connecticut, P.T. Barnum sold his general store since the statewide lottery network had been his main source of income. He moved to New York City and began working as a showman, starting a variety troupe. In 1836, his variety troupe, Barnum's Grand Scientific and Musical Theater, had a year of mixed success. Then came the U.S. financial crisis known as the Panic of 1837, which led to 3 years of hard times for Barnum. He found success again after purchasing and reinventing Scudder's American Museum, which he renamed Barnum's American Museum. So there was a few things in there that I cut out.
Oh, okay. So but I gotcha.
It's just my way of shortening stuff. But
maybe during that economic crisis, the government sent out $1,200 to everyone.
Yeah. So it wasn't like an immediate thing. Yeah, maybe. He took whatever earnings he had, moved to New York, got a job in show business, and probably saved a little bit until he was able to purchase whatever, the museum. But the next question was, because after he started the show, and we're kind of going a little bit out of order here, but do you remember how the population around there were really upset that he was having like freak shows and all this stuff, and so there were a bunch of protests. So one of the question was there really protests over P.T. Barnum shows? That actually was. Yes. They don't have necessarily like concrete evidence, but they're like, that was likely true.
Yeah.
So just because
not confirmed but likely.
Well, and it's because back then theater was considered really they considered the theater dens of sin.
What?
So yeah, any type of theater was just looked down upon for whatever reason, and so because that was his main focus, there were probably protests.
So wait, why dens of sin? Like, what do they think happens in the theater?
This is says many in the public had long considered theaters dens of sin, and the oddities and performances on display in P.T. Barnum's museum fueled their outrage. Over the year, Barnum tried to change that perception, but when his American Museum burned down in 1865, there were those who mourned its passing, and still those who celebrated that it was gone. So the fact that people were happy that it was gone, they just assumed, there were probably people that were, rioting or protesting.
Do you guys think that there was ever a time when P.T. Barnum bought $25,000 worth of tickets to be the number one box office for his theater for the weekend?
No.
Just to show that he could?
That's outrageous. If he would have bought $25,000 worth of tickets, he would have been in the top box office back then, no matter what week it was. But maybe $25 worth of box office tickets.
Yeah, Danny,
a global pandemic.
I regret this.
I regret this.
Oops. Okay, so another thing to think about that I had a question of, because we've already kind of mentioned it. There was that Swedish lady that he invites to come and perform, and he does like a tour with her, and he goes off and so that, what was her name? Jenny Lind was the singer's name. And obviously in the movie it kind of portrays this this infatuation that he has with her. And I'll be honest, like even in the movie, like, because like when he first hears her sing, he's like standing there and he's like just looking at her in awe, and he's got tears in his eyes and everything, and like his wife kind of sees him, and even then, like I wasn't so sure. I was like, is he just moved by her music, or is it her that he's interested in? And is this gonna turn out to be, because like I don't know, I was like gonna be pissed if like he cheated on his wife. I don't know why.
Well, because like the story of him and his wife getting together seems so like magical,
romantic.
I know. It was like, you defied odds, you promised her that you'd give her the world or whatever, and now you're just gonna go cheat on her with some Swedish bird. So anyway,
get yourself a Swedish fish and call it a night.
Yeah. So the question is, did they actually almost have an affair? Anybody want to take a poke at this one?
I think I remember this one from my brief research into this after I watched this movie. Can I guess, or will it ruin it for you?
No, go ahead and guess.
I believe, if I remember correctly, this was like months ago when I did this, but she had like no interest in him and kind of thought he was like sort of a creepo of sorts.
What, he was like a clown to her?
Yeah, it was so complete fiction. They never really had anything. It was really just he looked at her as a way to get money. And
gold digger?
I don't know, it's not a gold digger, but she just had a skill that he wanted to exploit. And
skill.
But she wasn't dumb either. She knew what she was doing. She did how many?
I'm assuming
shows?
She made good money doing this too, right?
Oh, she did. So she made. Crap, I can't remember how many she did. 93 concerts. She did 93 concerts and made $350,000. And so if you
in today's dollars,
you want to make a guess at that one, mathematicians?
$7 billion.
No, 3,500 or 350,000 in like the 50s.
Late 1800s. 1850. Yeah. Well, no. Sorry. Yeah, 1852.
So I'm gonna go with 10 times about 40 million.
Nah,
you're pretty far off, but 10 million.
About 10 million.
I really appreciated the effort, though, Danny. You really looked like you were gonna nail the landing.
Well, at first he said 10.
Your eyes were moving
10
around.
times. So I was like, oh, he's gonna get it because he said 10.
10 times would have been 3.5 million. I'd be closer.
But yeah, do you know though that she didn't keep a dime of that 10 million or 350,000? She actually donated it to charity.
Who's that?
That was the whole reason
Not
that
his
she
wife,
did
charity.
it. Yeah, it was.
Whose charity?
Specifically, it was the Endowment of Free Schools in Sweden. So it was.
What
schools?
schools?
To help schools.
Oh,
good for her.
Does everyone ever else think that Alan's always like a couple steps behind?
Well, maybe he is actually going along with us, but you're always talking over him, so maybe we just can't hear.
Yeah, that's the thing. I can't get out.
Talking.
Sorry, I cut you off. Yeah, every time I try to say something, Danny has something, and I have to wait for him to be done. And then by the time I can say what I wanted to say,
it happens all the time.
I'm just saying.
No longer relevant.
I cracked the Who's Charity joke like 2 minutes before Alan did.
Oh, you did?
It said, "Who's Charity?" And then we have a whole conversation, and then Alan's like, "Who's Charity?"
I thought you were literally asking what charity it was. So I didn't even see.
Oh, you thought I said H-O or W-H-O apostrophe S.
What were you saying?
Who is Charity? Is what he did say, right?
Oh,
that's what I said.
I think you guys made the same joke. We have lost like 10 minutes of time discussing this.
All right. So now we're getting into kind of some of the because the big thing with his show before it became a circus was, the early stages of the circus was the freak show, right? So you remember some of so you had the bearded lady, you had the dog face man, the guy that had like just all the hair all over,
which I find offensive, but yes.
Like a super, like the world's fattest man or whatever, heaviest man.
Something like that.
Basically a previous character of Hugh Jackman.
But probably one of the more interesting ones were, and this is interesting to me, but was Charles Stratton, who was Tom Thumb, like the dwarf that he brought in.
Wait, is this guy in the movie? The short guy?
Yeah. So he's actually the first one that he approaches in the movie, and it's because he sees him in like, it might be a bank or something, that maybe when he was trying to get a loan or something like that, that Tom Thumb comes out of the room, and he just like is like amazed at how small this guy is, and then ends up finding him and talking him into being a part of a show. And the whole thing was like, he talked him into it by saying like, look, people are already staring at you. Why don't you make some money while doing it? And he's like, by the way, and then he used this to his advantage because he looked in and he saw that he had like all these like army characters and stuff. And he's like, I could put you in this outfit. You could come riding in on a horse, and he's making it sound all glorified and everything. But in the movie, he's 22 years old. And so the question was first off, was he a real person? Yes, he was a real person.
How big was he in real life, though?
Oh, you know what? It doesn't say in this, but this is what gets me is he brought him in the show. Tom Thumb was actually 4 years old when he started.
What?
He was just a baby.
4 years old. And I'm sitting there thinking like, P.T. Barnum's looking down at him. He's like, man, that's a little 4-year-old. I hope he stays this little.
Wait, is Tom Thumb the actor or the actual guy?
No, that's the name that they give him.
So like they had posters everywhere, at least according to the movie, that they'd be advertising like, come see Tom Thumb and the world's smallest man, and come see so-and-so, the singing bearded lady, and whatever.
Who's the actor? Peter Dinklage?
No, you and Peter Dinklage. No.
I love Peter Dinklage.
I know you do.
We all love Peter Dinklage, but doesn't mean he's in everything.
So yeah, the other interesting thing though is
wait, but wouldn't a 4-year-old? It's just that's just a 4-year-old at that point.
It's a 4-year-old, yeah.
How did he luck out getting a 4-year-old who actually didn't grow?
Okay, that was the thing. I think he knew who he was, because it's revealed that they were actually distant cousins. So he probably knew that he had dwarfism or whatever. But yeah, 4 years old.
If you're 4 years old and was he like actually the size of a thumb?
No.
You have kids. You know what a 4-year-old looks like.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like 4-year-olds are small already. So if you were to already identify a 4-year-old as super small, he had to be super duper tiny.
He was really tiny. Think the proportion... There is a picture of him where he's kind of holding him, like standing him on his. Oh, you can't see this. Standing him on his hand. Like, so. I mean, he was tiny.
Like this.
No, not like this.
Not a thumb.
He was not the actual size of a thumb.
For the audio listeners, they were putting their thumbs up.
That would have been awesome, though. Like, I would have paid to see that.
Yeah. No. It was.
We'd all pay to see that. Person the size of a thumb.
But the thing is with that he was good at, number one, he was manipulative. He got people to do things that they probably wouldn't normally do. Now, you could look at it, see what they did in the movie was they portrayed that as him giving people like giving them confidence and making them believe that or feel comfortable with who they are. And maybe that happened a little bit. But he was not doing that for their good. He was doing it for his own good because that's what people would pay to see. People would come to see the tiniest guy riding around on a horse. People would come to see a woman who had a beard. And there was one thing in here that was not in the movie that they mentioned was that he actually had this lady that had this. She was crippled. She was paralyzed and had like some other disease, and she just looked super duper old. Now, she was 80 years old, which I mean, that's pretty old.
Back then
was super old. But he told everybody she was 160, and that she was General Washington's nurse. Or servant or maid or somebody. And so that she was still alive at 160. And here's this lady, I just imagine her kind of rolling in like Stephen Hawking. Just being like, hello.
You had the world's first computer generated voice.
No, it was through one of those blowhorns she held up and it was like, hello.
Like a stoma.
Yeah.
But
hello,
anyway,
it's me, the oldest woman.
When she passed around 80. So, but that's what he did. He just took those things, and he knew that people would want to see him, and
so he just like exaggerated the truth.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which I think kind of happens in the movie too.
Yeah. But nobody's going to stand up and be like, I want to see the birth certificate.
Trav, you're in marketing though. Don't you exaggerate some products sometimes?
No. I mean, you can't lie about a product. So like an exaggeration was just a version of a lie usually. So.
But I mean, say you open your fridge and you see Sunny D and you just go berserkly happy. I think that's
not a lie though. Someone could potentially go berserkly happy to see Sunny D.
Super happy about
this.
I don't think so.
It's a fact.
I don't think anyone has ever actually gotten that happy about Sunny D.
But you can't prove that. Where you could have proved, you could say, I was told she was 160. She's only 80. I want my money back. But with like Sunny D, you can't be like, I was told I'd be really happy and I opened it and I didn't. And I opened the fridge and I'm still sad. Be like, well, you have other factors in your life. You're going through a divorce right now. You should be unhappy. Sunny D's not going to fix that.
It would go for so much money if it would.
Go through a divorce? Sunny divorce.
Get Sunny D.
Get a divorce. Get a Sunny D.
It just stands for Sunny Divorce.
I just said that, Danny.
Oh, you did?
Sunny D, the original Prozac.
Sorry. I guess Alan,
Danny
I just see where maybe...
just steals jokes.
Maybe we're on a delay and we don't know it.
But so moving on, the other question was, and we've kind of already covered this, so I'm going to breeze past it, but did his museum actually burn down? Because remember, that's where he was having his shows. The protesters came in and supposedly burn it down. Now, there are some theories that it was actually arson, that somebody did go and burn it down, but it wasn't because of protesters or anything like that. But whatever the case may be, it did burn down, which forced him into reinventing his show. So in 1870, he partnered with circus owners William Cameron Coop and Dan Costello to start P.T. Barnum's Grand Traveling Hippodrome, which eventually came to be known as the greatest traveling show on earth. I don't know what a hippodrome is. Anybody?
Look it up. Yeah.
Look up hippodrome.
Something that was really cool, like a cool drone, is a hip.
It's not drone, drome with an M.
Okay, Ed, how do you spell it?
Well, spell hippo.
Since you know what it is.
Spell
Dan
hippo.
was basically just trying to say that joke where he's like,
and then drome with an M.
That joke.
The hippodrome was an ancient Greek stadium for horse racing and chariot racing.
Ah, okay. There we go. So that's what they did. Barnum took full control of the circus, though, in 1875. His most well-known partnership came 6 years later when he teamed up with James A. Bailey and James L. Hutchinson, securing acts like Jumbo, the 6.5-ton elephant, in 1887. The circus was rebranded with the more familiar name Barnum and Bailey Brothers, Greatest Show on Earth, until Barnum died in 1891. But so here's the thing. In the movie, he starts super young with this whole thing. He didn't start into this whole charade until he was 60. So that was the other thing that the movie was just like, you know what? Nobody's going to want to watch the 60-year-old guy doing this. Let's get somebody. Well, let's get Wolverine.
How old is Hugh Jackman? He's probably like.
Well, he's like 50, but.
Well, yeah, he might be 50,
yeah,
but
he looks
press a
30.
Bulldozer, so.
And P.T. Barnum, I looked up a picture of that dude. He's kind of ugly. So
no,
I don't want.
Everybody is like his wife. Oh,
everybody.
I mean, it was kind of an ugly time for people.
It was.
Now we're gonna get some women's rights activists.
I know. Like, I'm like, oh, come on. She probably had wooden teeth. So, but let's see. What else?
I did look up pictures of Tom Thumb, and he just looks like a 4-year-old. I would be demanding my money back if someone was like, come on in to like see the shortest man. And I came in and I was like, that's just a 4-year-old. Very disappointed.
I know, he even looks like a 4-year-old.
He looks like a 4-year-old. Even if he is an adult, I would be like, no, it's a 4-year-old.
Maybe
like
what they did is
a 4-year-old.
They like built like a giant paper mache hand, and that was like this, and then he stood next to it, and he was like the same size.
I've not seen the picture of him holding the guy in his hand.
Concept was just because he was small. It wasn't the actual size.
Yeah, like
the person.
Like what's a thumbnail? It's just it's a small representation of what your video is on YouTube. You post a thumbnail.
That does come from thumb, but point taken.
It is the size of a thumbnail.
His wife is. I mean, she's a pioneer. We'll just leave it at that. So
yes,
she's got a real pioneer vibe going on.
Well, also here's the other thing too. So in the movie, after his wife hears about the kiss with him and the Swedish gal, she kind of gets upset, deservedly
rightfully
so. Rightfully, not deservedly, rightfully so. And she takes the kids, leaves him, and goes and back and lives with her parents. Did that actually happen?
Oh, no, the kiss didn't.
No, the kiss didn't, and so therefore, no, she didn't leave. In fact, if P.T. Barnum was good at anything other than exploiting people's flaws and making money off of it, it was being
super loyal.
Being loyal.
Loyal?
Being a loyal husband, because him and his wife, they were married for 44 years until she died.
Oh, she died first.
Aww.
Yeah, she died first, and then he remarried actually afterwards in 1873, and then was married to his second wife until he died in 1891.
How old was he when he died?
Old. I can tell you in a little bit because it's up at the top, and I don't want to.
I was gonna sound like it sounds like he lived pretty long for being over a century ago, a century and a half ago.
What?
1.3 centuries ago.
Yep. I don't know the age lifespan, but I imagine so.
Yeah.
Well, good for him. It's nice to hear that he's loyal and stuck it out, even though he abused animals. But
he was 80 years old when he died.
Yeah.
So all of this happened
age as the lady that he made fun of.
I was gonna say that, or 160 in B.T. Barnum years.
So all of this was really. So the whole movie was really just like the last 20 years of his life.
Yeah, that's what they were. That's kind of what they focused on. But then, of course, they just made it super flashy. I mean, it was a musical, so they needed to.
In the movie, it appeared that like the whole thing took place in maybe like a year or two.
Yeah,
as far as like the movie, because like the kids are still kids.
Yeah,
I want them to remake this accurately. And I want to star Kevin from The Office as P.T. Barnum. And it's still a musical, but otherwise it's basically accurate to the T.
There are some, if you go on to, it's called History versus Hollywood, or you could just search, you can just, search Greatest Showman, History versus Hollywood, and it'll pull it up. And it'll actually show you the differences between the characters. So it has like the original pictures. So it's got Hugh Jackman, and it gives you his information. So he was born October 12th, 1968, while P.T. Barnum was born July 5th, 1810. And like where they're born and all that stuff. So it's even it's got a picture of Tom Thumb. That kid, he looks great. He looks so scared right now, like this picture. But
he does look like a little gentleman, though. Do you think that P.T. Barnum is happy that Hugh Jackman played him, or like annoyed? Because on the one hand, it's like cool that you got like this, like one of the sexiest men alive playing you. On the other hand, you know people are constantly drawing comparisons. Like that guy looked nothing like that. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah, but if it was, I bet you, because he is he probably thinks of himself that way. So regardless,
I don't know.
I felt he's probably pretty arrogant. He's probably pretty arrogant.
Yeah, I would say, like, I mean, knowing nothing about him because I wasn't alive when he was alive, but I would compare him and his personality sounds a lot like that Tiger King dude. And like Joe Exotic, like any attention or like focus or spotlight that he can get probably is exciting to him. So he's like, the fact that they made a whole movie about me, and it was like a bad A movie for as far as musicals go. Like he was probably excited. He's probably like,
yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're probably right.
I was negotiating nickels and dimes and got him down to 9% or whatever.
10%.
10%.
It's an easy number to remember, Danny. It's 10. Why is it not? Got him down to 6.3%.
That's right. He says 9. They says 10, and then he goes, for his pen, huh? Yeah, that's right.
How many times have you seen this? I've only seen this movie one time.
I've seen it like all the way through probably once, but I've seen parts of it like 100 times because my kids went through a phase where they only watched that movie for like a month.
Is it really that good of a movie? Should I watch it?
It's not bad of a movie.
It's not bad.
Like I saw it twice, but the music is really what does it for the show. Because I've heard the soundtrack to it probably, I don't know, like
a million
20 plus times. So
like the music is very catchy. Like, I was the same way because my son, who's 14 now, I think at the time he would have been like 12 or something. He came home and he's like, Dad, I went and saw this movie. I didn't think it was going to be good, but it was like one of the best movies I've ever seen. I'm like, what movie? And he's like, it's about the circus. I'm like, what? It's a musical about the circus? That does not sound good. And then I watched it with the kids and I was like, oh, I could see how this movie is pretty good.
Are you singing that line there? Or were you... I can see how this movie's pretty good. I get to eat my popcorn in the hood.
It was better than it should be.
Well, I'm going to just end it here because that was pretty much it. So, yeah, in conclusion, yeah, not a lot of it was actually accurate.
Very little, in fact.
So kind of polar opposite of what Alan did last week. They took an idea and just ran with it and made their own thing. Basically, the only things that were constant were some of the characters. So
basically,
P.T. Barnum,
P.T. Barnum did start a circus, and that was about the extent.
And
other than like he had like little people and bearded people.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey.
Bearded woman, bearded people isn't that.
Yeah, just a regular bearded
like,
guy is
weird.
just me.
So
I'm starting my own circus.
Yeah. So
was it like
I at least suggest going and watching now.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
Was the bearded woman, was it like dark brunette beard or was it like a light blonde?
No, it was dark.
Well, in the movie it was dark.
It
I
was
feel
dark.
like it wouldn't be
like,
as shocking if it was more like blonde.
But
yeah,
I guess I don't know if they talked about this in anything that you read, Trav, but was the bearded woman, like, was she a singer too? Like she was portrayed in the movie?
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
No. No, she was not. At least I don't think so. None of them really had like those. I mean, she was just somebody to look at. Like, oh my gosh, a woman with a beard and a mustache.
I feel like after going to the circus in the 1990s and early 2000s, I would have been disappointed in the circus in the 1850s. Like
the circus, I think back then, like with the freak shows and stuff, kind of reminds me of like if you ever go to, like, they don't do it much anymore, but
like the state fair.
Yeah, the state fair where you have to pay like $2 to see. Like, Trav, was it you that we went in to see some like serpent lady, and it was just a lady, and
boy, that was an eye opener.
Yeah, and
you just get a look through.
She was
like
just
a little,
in like a snake. It was like a snake suit that she sat in.
I remember
like
that, and I remember really thinking it was going to be a serpent lady.
I know, so did I.
And then did they get another $2 out of you when they said, "Come and see the world's largest crocodile"?
No, well, I always wanted to do that. I think we did see that too.
We did see that, yeah. It was a big crocodile.
Is it the world's largest? But
is it even alive though? Because it didn't even move when I went and saw it.
I think it was just, well, yeah, they don't hardly move unless they're going to eat something.
Well, you know what else would snuff out the circus nowadays? The internet. Because if I want to see a bearded woman, I can see one like that.
You could see many of them.
I could see a lot of different types of bearded women. I can see all sorts. Like, I can see the largest crocodile right now. I don't need to pay $2 to see that.
Well, not really, because it still has to fit on your screen.
No, Alan. Okay, I'm Googling largest crocodile right now, and
but it's going to fit on. Alan's saying it's not that size in your in real life. Like, well, not.
Yeah, it's
damn,
still
that's a
on
big
your
crocodile.
screen, so you're just
Well,
like,
yeah, but you see a picture of it, and you can see there's probably somebody standing by it, so you can contrast.
There is someone standing by, and I can see, and it is a huge crocodile. In fact, it's so big, I'm now questioning its authenticity.
Is it as big as the crocodile on Hook?
It is as big as the crocodile on Hook.
Ooh.
Is it black and white?
It is the crocodile on Hook.
Oh my gosh!
Does it have
Rob
a
has
in
a
its
Robin
mouth?
Williams standing next to it.
No, it's got Dustin Hoffman. Does that count?
Well, this just goes to
Hook?
prove that
Didn't he play Hook?
Yeah, he played.
Oh,
Hook.
that's your joke.
Yeah, that's my joke.
This
Thanks.
goes to prove how gullible we were as children and how gullible people are. I mean, Trav, do you remember when we went to Vegas and that we bought that card trick, that the floating card trick?
Yeah, I remember that.
When we, like, I don't know, you tell me honestly, when you were going into the back room where the guy was going to reveal the trick after we purchased it, did you think he was going to show us how to legitimately levitate a card?
I thought he would do more than just show us a fishing wire stuck to the back of his ear by wax. So I don't know if I thought it was going to levitate, but I thought it was going to be something more.
I mean, so many things went through my head when we purchased that card. Like, before I knew exactly what it was, I was like, in my head, I'm like, I'm going to levitate so many things and just, I am going to be the talk of the town. All the girls are going to love me because I can levitate stuff.
All right, so here's the question, though. Did you actually utilize the trick and levitate at least the card in a convincing enough fashion that people believed that you were levitating?
We got pretty good at it.
I think we got okay with it, but do you remember when we got excited, we wanted to go up to our friend Josh Edwards' house and show him?
Oh, that's the worst idea.
But we couldn't. I don't remember actually showing it to him because we had to get it ready beforehand because we couldn't run up to his house, which was a block up the street, and then get it ready. We had to get it ready first and then run up. But as we were going up, it was a super windy day, so it kept popping the
Remember that.
It kept popping the line off of our ear, and so we could never go up and show him.
That reminds me.
Cool, though.
Do you guys remember when I went through that phase with the acrylic balls?
Is that phase over?
Bird! But yeah, remember like the balls that were supposed to be in the labyrinth that the Goblin King,
the glass balls?
Yeah, but they were actually made
right.
out of acrylic. And you could buy one at the magic store. It just reminded me. And like you're supposed to practice like letting it float off your hand and down and back around and on your arm and stuff. And I hurt myself so many times dropping that ball on my foot or like hitting my face or something.
Hitting your face?
Yeah, because like when you're trying to like roll it, it's like.
Oh yeah, I guess that would hit your face.
Yeah, it sucked.
But anyway, so all right, well, let's end this. Good spot to end it on. So yeah, like I said, if you haven't seen it, it's at least good to go watch once, so you can get an idea of what didn't actually happen in history. So, but again, that website, if you ever do have any biopics or anything like that, I don't know if all of them are on there, but that's History versus Hollywood. And then just to end things here, with us, you can go and visit us at qcopodcast.com. We're always up for interaction. So tell you two that are watching us, you two that are watching us on YouTube, tell 2 more people.
Because then there will be even amount of people on the podcast as watching the podcast.
If everybody who listens to this podcast tells one of their friends to watch it, as many as 30 listeners. So I really
what we're trying to do is we're trying to get the R0 of our viewership up.
Yeah, but that would require you to tell more than one person.
You guys know what R0 is? It's how contagious a disease is. So like if
smallpox at
one person
R0.
spreads it to 2 people, that's bad. If one person spreads it to 0.5 people, that's in the good trending down. COVID's pretty high R not.
Stupid.
What is
COVID.
it, Alan? Because they got COVID down to like 1 for a while, but now
it's probably back up to like
2?
1.5. I don't know.
So,
so in conclusion, stay tuned for 2 more episodes of Real vs. Real that we're doing.
Yep.
I don't know who's next. Trav, Mydell, is that you?
I think
I'm next.
I think it's Danny because Trav went first with our conspiracies. So
are you gonna?
It is Dan Kuhn.
Are you gonna mention right now what it's gonna be, or are we gonna keep it a surprise?
Mad Max Fury Road.
Yep. Real or fake? I'll tell you right now, it's all real.
Real, but it just hasn't happened yet.
No, yeah, we can tell. Stay tuned for next week for a little like car-on-car action as we witness the Ford versus Ferrari, real or fake. And as I mentioned last week, it's not Matt Ryan in that movie. It's Matt Damon.
You said Matt Ryan?
Yeah,
the Atlanta Falcons.
For the
Common mistake.
It's starring Matt
with
Ryan.
sports shutdown, he had to do something.
But anyway, so yeah, make sure you tune in next week for that. And until then, I guess
keep it real.
Party on, Wayne.